The NFL offseason is heating up as we creep closer and closer to March. Still got the Super Bowl, but some more news that the Texans are going to go out and get another potential wide receiver. If the Texans don't trade for a wide receiver, I'd be shocked at this point because there's been about 8 different names that I'm hearing that they could potentially go after. And this one actually makes sense. The Texans yesterday they brought in a new offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, out of the Rams system, and Sean McVay loves him, but why not bring another familiar name along in Cooper Kupp, who just kind of posted that the Rams do not want to keep him in Los Angeles. So some interesting kind of news. You go bang, bang, Texans get an offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, Kupp, bring him along. I mean, it would be something really interesting. So welcome to Texans Digest. I already dove into today's topic, but if you would, hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down all Texans news, and I've talked about what it means to get a wide receiver too. Nico Collins was amazing. He's been amazing for the past 2 seasons. It's just that secondary guy. Likely, if the Texans can't bring back Diggs, Kupp would make a good sense to fit as a number 2. However, I'd rather bring Kupp and Diggs back. I know it sounds stupid, but Diggs is a cheaper option, and this is why I don't believe that Kupp will be a Texan, is because of his contract. He's due $29 million in the cap hit this season. He's about to be 32 this offseason, and it's just not ideal for his age and his injury history. What do you give up, a 5th-round pick, a 4th-round pick? Try and obviously give up the least for a good valued wide receiver. It's just, what's worth it at this point? We broke down DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Garrett Wilson. There's so many potential wide receivers that could be dished this offseason. And Kupp to the Texans, I would love it. Great route runner, fits really well in the slot. It could be Nico, Diggs, and Kupp right in the slot. However, with the injuries, I don't know if I'd want to bring him in. And I feel like you could say that about any player. You could say maybe DK's had a couple injuries, or you look at any other players. T. Higgins is on the market. He's been pretty injured the past couple years. But I think injuries are a part of the sport. Again, Kupp has had more than we are kind of familiar with. He's getting up there in age. He's actually older than Stephon Diggs. I just think it's a terrible idea because when you look at Cooper Kupp, what is he going to fit into the system as, right? It's not a terrible idea. It's just like, if the Texans want to compete for a championship, why not go all out and go get Cooper Kupp? That's kind of what the reports are saying. And out of all the names on this list for potential competing, I am very surprised the Lions are not one of the first teams on this list. They're not even on this list, but the Texans are. Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Bengals. There's a lot. Bucks, I say it's a little iffy. Packers is, again, iffy. But definitely 5 of those teams I love. Bills is a good contender. Texans, I would not count out the Lions because, remember, Jared Goff is another potential friend of Cooper Kupp. But out of all the teams that make sense, it's either the Lions or the Texans in my eyes because the Texans just brought in a familiar name in Nick Caley. So it's an interesting situation for if the Texans want to pursue an injury-prone wide receiver who's kind of a little bit past his days, but it's still Cooper Kupp, right? He could still ball out, and that's the point of it. Let's take a look at his stats from last year. As Kupp, 12 games, 100 targets, 67 catches, 720 yards, 6 tutties. Not a bad season, but definitely not ideal, right? In the 12 games that he played, he averages about 60 yards a game. I mean, he did get hurt early in the season, got rolled up on. I don't really think that's his fault, but a lot of non-contact injuries. It's just, you look at it, what is the right idea for Cooper Kupp? I'm not actually sure if we should go get him, but overall, when you're looking at what the Texans kind of want, Cooper Kupp's basically that. Here's the thing. You have John Mechie who can fit in the slot, but you need a number 2 wide receiver. And I personally do not want Stephon Diggs. And when I'm talking about all these trade rumors for wide receivers, the funniest thing is the Texans will probably not do any of what I'm saying. They'll probably re-sign Stephon Diggs and try and go after T. Higgins and not get him, or pursue maybe a low-end wide receiver in a trade that is in their favor. Maybe DK. I don't see them going out and getting a wide receiver on a big contract. If they do get a Pickens or a Wilson, they're still on rookie deals. So that's affordable for the Texans. We have to keep in mind that this is a team that doesn't have a lot of cap space. And if you could see on the screen right now, if he's traded to a new team, his $20 million salary is not a good thing unless the contract is renegotiated or the Rams take some of his salary. So if his salary is worked into a deal with a trade, then it's something to consider. But again, Kupp is due a lot of money for somebody who we don't even know will be the same guy next year. And I say that I love Cooper Kupp. He's a great wide receiver, but the rumors of, again, it's the offseason. Everyone's going to throw names around, throw teams of where players should be on, and it's just like the Texans, I don't see Kupp in a Texans jersey. And I could say that, and they go out and trade for him in a month or whenever the offseason period is open after the Super Bowl. And there's definitely a lot of names that could be traded as the wide receivers on the market. T. Higgins, Devontae Adams is a free agent, I believe, and there's just a lot of names. Keenan Allen, free agent, but there's just so many things for the Texans to do, and I'm just kind of scared as to which receiver they decide to get. Because they're going to get somebody, whether it's T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens. There's so many, but my fear is we're going to get like a Juwan Jennings, and Nick Caserio is going to be like, all right, that's it. We don't have any more money. Unless they do something catastrophic, and they're like, hey, let's trade our entire offensive line for some draft picks and go get wide receiver help. Now, the likelihood of that happening is very low. So let me know your guys' thoughts, because Cooper Kupp, I think his career is just kind of dwindling down. It's kind of like a DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones situation where they leave the team that they were once happily welcomed by, and all of a sudden their production just falls off. Now that could be a lack of the team, and because DeAndre Hopkins went from the Texans to he went all over the place. So the Cardinals, and then eventually he dipped off Titans, and now the Chiefs. He's not even anything crazy. But the point is for a wide receiver who's 31 years old, a lot of money incoming. It's too risky, and the Texans could go high risk, high reward. I think that they did that with Diggs last year, though. So is Nick Caserio going to be aggressive in the offseason period? If you're going to be aggressive, I think T. Higgins is your best option. Second best is a Garrett Wilson. Third best is a George Pickens. And I don't necessarily love George Pickens, but he's on a cheaper deal. And then it's like a DK, a Kupp, or anybody else that's over like $25, $30 million cap hit. So it's definitely tough. The Kupp trade rumors, it's something that you're like, it's not a terrible idea, but for the money he's making, it's not worth the trade. Even if you give up a fifth-round pick, you're just taking his salary at that point, and you're hoping on the fact that he can stay healthy and be the Cooper Kupp that we know him to be, but that's so unlikely at that point. So the Texans need a wide receiver. It's just the right wide receiver. And I'm not saying Kupp's not a bad option, but for all the other signs of his age, the injuries, the money he's making, there's better options. And first and foremost, I would love to get T. Higgins. T. Higgins right now makes the most sense to me, and we'll probably have more updates after the Super Bowl and in the actual mesh of the offseason period. But Higgins, I mean, he's had his fair share of injuries as well on the Bengals, but you still have to understand the fact that he's most likely not going to stay with them. He's 26 years old. The Bengals don't have the money to give him like $35 million unless he decides he wants to stay there, right? If Higgins is like, okay, I want to stay with Joe Burrow, that's a different story. But he's kind of gone off the rails as to what kind of contract he wants, and the Texans could go out of their way to give him a lot of money. And I don't think the Texans are a team that have the budget for Higgins, because you're going to have to move around a lot of money if you want to make that kind of move. But they have to at least be open to it. So a lot of moves to make for the Texans, but trade rumor that Cooper Kupp could end up on the Texans. He's definitely going to be shopped. We saw the tweet yesterday. It's just a matter of where does he land. Again, there's going to be teams, players that are getting thrown around because it's the offseason and people are going to try and have fun. I don't believe this is a possibility, but if it is, it's not a bad idea. It's just about the money, and will it be worth it for him to be as effective as he used to be, the Triple Crown winner, as we know Cooper Kupp to be. But let me know your thoughts on this potential trade rumor, trade news. Cooper Kupp potentially a Texan. I'm not a fan, but again, could be a big factor with Nick Caley. Nick Caley and the new Texans offense could bring in Kupp with Caley. So thank you everyone so much for watching. Appreciate all the support. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. But until next time, we'll catch you in the next video.